My name is Fiona Thorne and I'm an agricultural economist based in Ashtown in Dublin with Teagasc. Today's Situation and Outlook conference, I covered the situation and outlook for agri-inputs and then moved on to the situation and outlook for crops. And in terms of what happened with inputs in 2015, well, it was a very mixed year, but I suppose the overall global picture was for falling agricultural commodities, both on the inputs and some of our major agricultural outputs. So the major agricultural inputs which witnessed a decrease in 2015, the big news story was what happened to fuel. But I suppose what happened on exchange rates cushioned that to a large extent, and we didn't experience the full fall in fuel prices in Ireland than some other world markets did experience. And also exchange rates affected what happened on the other key agricultural input, which was fertiliser. And fertiliser was unchanged really in 2015 relative to 2014, again reflecting what happened in exchange rate movements. And if we move on then to agricultural inputs for 2016, for our major agricultural inputs, it's a very mixed story, and really you have to get into the agricultural commodities to look at the full implications of those. But the key headline figures for agricultural inputs, feed inputs on a year-on-year basis increasing by about 2%, and fertiliser relatively unchanged year-on-year. And then if we look at cereals and crops and the major story in terms of the situation and the outlook for crops, for 2015, even though agricultural yields in terms of our main cereals, wheat and barley, they did increase by about 3%, 4% and 5%, so did other cereal yields on the world market. And this had a depressing effect on prices. So when you put the price story together and the yield story together for cereals, it was relatively unchanged in 2015 relative to 2014. And when we move forward into 2016, we're not really seeing any upward movement or a good news story for the average cereal farmer out there. We're probably expecting a reversion to trend yields. If we think of the bumper harvest that we had in 2015 and a reversion to trend yields then in 2016, that will have a downward pressure on yields. And on a global market scene, what we're expecting, looking at futures market prices at the moment, we're looking at about a 5% increase in cereal yields for 2016. And when we put the yield and the price story together, again, not a very positive outlook for the average cereal farmer out there. And when you look at net margin, market-based net margin for the average cereal farmer, it's negative. It was negative in 2014, it was negative in 2015, and we're forecasting that it will be negative in 2016 as well. So the average cereal farmer out there will make a negative market-based net margin of about €25 per hectare in 2016.